Ladies and gentlemen, will you please be upstanding for your Chairman of Council, Councillor Les Burrows.
There was no. Item 1 on our agenda tonight is the webcasting introduction. May I ask Mr Woodall to please read the webcasting announcement?
Thank you, Chairman. The Chairman would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. If you are seated in the lower public seating area, it is likely that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. Could I also remind members to activate their microphones before speaking and to switch them off when they're finished. Thank you.
Item 2 on our agenda is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies so far from Councillors Bromwich, Dadd, George, McCann, Rizvi and Stocker.
Thank you. Item 3 on our agenda. Sorry. Councillor.
And Councillor Sharif, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Sharif. Councillor Allgood. Yep. Councillor
Lucas.
Councillor Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, colleagues just made that comment, Councillor Lucas, and I think we should welcome the fact that Councillor Lucas has recently had a baby.
And congratulations from all of us to Councillor Lucas.
Sorry, Chairman, I think there's apologies from Councillor Hadley as well. I got told just before
Councillor
the meeting.
Hadley?
Sorry.
Yeah. Right.
Beg your pardon, apologies also from Councillor Nweke.
Okay. That's a lot. Nobody else, you sure? Right. Thank you. Item 3 on our agenda, declaration of interest. Members, are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Pond.
Thank you, Chairman. Having had the fortune or misfortune to be born before 1958, I have been in receipt of the winter fuel allowance, which is decidedly pecuniary because its lack will provide something of a hole in my finances. So I intend not to contribute to the item, to the motion on the winter fuel allowance, as well as being out, winter fuel allowance outed because we had 2 motions on that at County Council this morning. I shall withdraw.
Okay. Is there any other members who wish to do the same? Councillor Amos.
Thank you, Chairman. That reminds me, I too perhaps ought to declare an interest, because if this motion went through and the government was so moved by it, I might receive a pecuniary interest, i.e. £200 winter allowance.
Thank you very much. Councillor Keska.
Chairman, I've been reminded that I am unfortunately old enough also to be in receipt of the winter fuel allowance that has now been withdrawn, so I will not take part in that particular part of the proceedings.
Okay, Councillor Bassett.
Thank you, Chairman. All I can say is ditto.
Councillor Williamson, sorry.
Following the ditto, could I say doe?
Right, may I ask our monitoring officer, Natalie Botane, to...
Thank you, Chair. As there are a large number of interests being declared on that motion, I think it's in order for a dispensation to be applied so that if members do want to stay and participate, they can.
Is everyone happy with that? Yes? Yes? Thank you. Right. Next, members, the minutes of our previous meetings held on the 23rd of July 2024 and the 8th of August 2024 are attached on pages 8 to 16. Are you in agreement that I may sign them as a correct record of our meetings? Thank you. Announcements. Well, members, I cannot believe actually we are already into October and I've been the chairman for 5 months. Time does really fly. But I must say how much Carol and myself have enjoyed the role. Last month we attended the Costermongers Harvest Festival in the Guildhall Yard, London. If you ever get the chance to attend, do so. It is a really colourful and historical event hosted by the Pearly Kings and Queens of London. A good old Cockney knees up. And held up by everyone in attendance. We also had the honour of being invited to the Epping Upland Church to the unveiling of a monument dedicated to Sergeant Pilot Felix Gumar, a pilot who served in 151 Squadron and who died in the Battle of Britain after his plane was shot down and crashed in Epping Green. It was a very moving service attended by members of the local parish community. I would like to take this opportunity, though, to remind everyone that this year, Remembrance Sunday will take place on the 10th of November, so wear your poppies with pride. As a council, we would be represented by past chairmen, portfolio holders and ward members at 15 wreath laying services around the district. As we can't fail to notice, Christmas is just around the corner, and with that festival thought in mind, may I remind you that the civic carol service will take place at St Mary's Church, Faden Boys, on Friday the 13th at 6:45 p.m. I do hope you will be able to join me for this very special service with maybe a guest appearance from somebody you probably all know from the council. And finally, as you know, this year I am supporting Essex and Herts Air Ambulance. My Vice Chairman, Councillor Lewis Mead, here has a number of small pins badges which we are asking for a minimum donation of £5 each. I really can assure you that every penny raised will go to this very worthy cause. Thank you. Members, we have received a public question which is published on page 17 of your agenda. May I ask Carl Heinzen to stand and read his question to the Chamber?
Chairman, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me 5 minutes of your time, and it will be 5 minutes, I think it'd be 4 minutes more like, of your time to ask a public question at your meeting. I've lived all my life in Essex. My first 20-something years were in Chigwell, and latterly the past 30 years bringing up a family in Waltham Abbey. My question to councillors, or rather my raising awareness campaign, relates to the permanent standing water in Honey Lane, adjacent to the Primo Piatio restaurant, junction of Wood Green Road. This water has resided on the highway for the past 25 years. Exactly the length of time I have been corresponding with councillors, including Honey Lane Ward, Thames Water, Essex Highways, and at least 2 Epping Forest MPs. 25 years. Think about it, year 1999, the Millennium Wheel was just being installed. We last saw the last full solar eclipse in the UK, and Kylie Minogue was singing Spinning Around at #1. Currently, the area resembles a standing water pond, in places to a depth of 5 to 10 millimetres. And in the past 3 weeks, a huge hole has appeared in the road, which presents a significant hazard to all road users. Only yesterday I filmed a van which showed half the front wheel beneath the normal road surface. Most road users that know the hazard treat the area like a small roundabout. The area looks a disgrace. But after 25 years, I think locals have forgotten how the area should look. Clearly, local maps should be amended to depict a small pond rather than a highway. I predicted serious injury will result sooner rather than later. If there is a significant flood on a highway, in my experience, it gets fixed. Why does Honey Lane continually get ignored? Clues are that there are very few residents in the vicinity, with only a restaurant and a pub nearby attracting passing trade. To shut Woodridden Hill Road for 1 hour, let alone shutting it for 1 week to sort the issue once and for all, will be a gridlock, would just gridlock the whole area, and it's much easier to ignore. Many of you attending tonight use this route to and from the Epping area. How much longer can you ignore this significant hazard to motorists? It is a skating rink in icy weather. I hear the cry, it is not council responsibility, it is Essex Highways. As individuals, we all have a responsibility to report significant health and safety hazards, especially on highways, and you as councillors are there to facilitate. My question to you, finally as councillors, is this. After 25 years of trying, should I, Mr Hanson, simply raise the white flag and give up trying to resolve?
Thank you very much for that. Would Councillor Whitbread care to answer this one, please? Chris Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Hanson, Mr Hanson, for bringing this to our attention again. I was only at the Marriott Hotel, what used to be the Marriott Hotel, last weekend, and this is a real problem. And cars are actually coming around the bend into the other road to avoid it. So I agree with you, it's a major issue. I will take it up again with highways myself. It's not my division, it's Councillor Sam Kane, who I know has raised it previously. There is obviously, it's a multi-partner issue, partly water, partly county council, but something does need to be done. And rest assured, I will pick it up in the morning and we will come back to you. I'm assuring your details are with officers. I will find out what's going on, and if necessary, I will get an officer down to inspect.
I'm grateful, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 7, members, we have received the question under notice from Councillor Tom Bromwich, who cannot be with us this evening. Therefore, can I ask Mr Woodall to read the question?
Thank you, Chairman. The question under notice from Councillor Bromwich to Councillor Holly Whitbread, Portfolio Holder for Finance and Economic Development. As Cabinet Member responsible for promoting business locally, is she aware of any animals being sold as prizes across the district at any local fairs or as part of any small business prize giving? And if so, will she work with me to end the practice? Thank you, Chairman.
May I ask Councillor Holly Whitbread to reply to the question, please?
Thank you to Mr Woodall for that question, and to Councillor Bromwich for submitting it. The good news is we don't know of any fairs locally who are selling pets for prizes, which is good news. Sorry, I'm referring to my phone. I have technical issues this evening, but we're not aware of anyone doing this locally. Under current legislation, it is illegal to give pets as prizes in the fairground. And actually, if this is a policy area where you think there are gaps or loopholes, I would suggest that Councillor Bromwich contacts his MP, Alex Burghardt, directly to discuss this matter. As I say, if this was to be happening in Epping Forest District, it'd certainly be something that we would condemn and that we would make sure that we took every action to bring to the attention of the police. But I will send Councillor Bromwich a full response to that end. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We are now on... Can we now have reports from the Leader of the Cabinet?
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, since the last time we met, I've had a series of meetings with different parishes and town councils within the district. I've also attended meetings relating to North Essex councils and the progress that they're making. I'm about to begin a tour around some of the North Essex councils to meet with fellow leaders across the whole of North Essex to discuss ways of cooperating further in the future. You'll see from a later paper on our corporate plan how that's starting to work as part and parcel of our transformation process. We've shared working with Braintree and Colchester. This is very important to us as we move forward. Over the past week, I've also had the opportunity to go inspect works at the new sports centre in Epping, along with Cabinet colleagues. I'm pleased to say they're making really good progress, and I believe this week they're starting to put the steel frame up, so expect some phone calls when people see the frame go up, because it always makes the building look bigger in the first instance. And I know that Councillor Murray will be pleased that on this visit we were told it's on time and on budget. So Councillor Brooks and myself will be having that swimming pool race very shortly. By the winter of 25 at least. But so we were really pleased to see the progress there, and the school children who attended also were pleased to see how it's progressing, and obviously they'll be the beneficiaries as we move forward. I'd also just like to bring to members' attention, I know you will share with me, as you would have seen communications, our Chief Executive has been off since about July following a bout of COVID, and I know we all wish Georgina well and hope she'll be back very soon in the new year. In the meantime, can I just thank personally Jen Gould and Andrew Small and the whole team for the amount of work that goes in. Running a council is not an easy thing, but they've both worked extremely hard over the summer and into the autumn. And of course, as you will see from reports from my Cabinet colleagues, we are on the verge of launching our waste company for Epping Forest on the 4th of November. And we have various meetings going on around that. So there's an awful lot going on, and our two strategic directors have been first class in stepping up and supporting the council through this period of time. And obviously, as you'd expect, we are bringing in some interim support because we do have busy areas like finance where we're preparing for what will be a difficult budget round. As my colleague highlighted at the last Cabinet meeting. And of course, we bring extra support for community support, support services, because obviously we need our phone systems in the customer area running efficiently when the new contract starts. So I'm sure that all members will share with me my thanks to those officers stepping up and our best wishes for a swift return.
Thank you. Are there any other Cabinet members who would like to give a written report? Councillor Bedford.
Thank you, Chairman. I had an email earlier in the week from a councillor from Harlow asking about the Latin Priory and the submission of the consultation documents. I can confirm now that the consultation documents will still be received up to the 1st of November. However, we may further alter it to allow the submission of any further comments throughout the duration of the application. I know that it was late going out to some residents in the local area, but just bring that to everybody's attention. Latin Design Code and the consultation document is all out there so for you to comment on if you wish to do so. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Ken Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. Since writing the report, I'd just like to mention the Sir John's Conservation Area in Buckhurst Hill. The consultation has been extended to the 18th of November.
Thank you very much. Any other councillor? No? Okay, right. We're now on to item 9, questions by members without notice. We will allocate 30 minutes for the questions. Can I ask you to be brief and to get to the point of your question to allow as many members as possible to take part in this? Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. If it's okay, I'm going to break slightly with convention and ask one of my Cabinet colleagues a question on a subject which is of great importance to both my ward and the wider Epping community. In fact, I would suggest the whole district. In Epping, on Tidies Lane, Palmer's Hill, there is a historic red grove tree. It's 150 years old, and I can't quite guess how many feet in height, but it really is a historic and iconic tree. The Cabinet member may be aware that after I called it into Planning Committee, it is coming to Planning Committee next week. The Epping Society have put together a petition which I am urging people to sign in support of saving the tree. And I would just like to highlight that the planning report says that it is regrettable, it would be regrettable if the tree was cut down, despite a recommendation on balance to suggest that, that felling. So my question to the Cabinet member is he aware of that application, and does he understand the sentiments of residents to make sure we save that historic red grove tree? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. That's Councillor Ken Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Whitbread. Yes, this is coming to a planning meeting, so I won't get into the detail of the actual application. I think we are blessed in this council with some excellent tree officers. They've always done a really good job. I think I'd like to point out that having a TPO and owning a TPO tree comes with responsibilities. Yeah, I would regret any loss of any tree in this district. This one has issues. We will discuss that, debate that at the Planning Committee and see where we get to. But I think it's really important that people take responsibility for the TPO trees in their possession. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. So I can make my first remarks positive today. Can I thank the officers for their involvement in local members on the Broadway project and all the initiatives that are taking place on the Oakwood Hill estate, both of which are in my ward, and I know that myself, Councillor Rackman and Councillor Necky feel that we have been fully involved. My question, slightly less positive. I think I'm right in asking, understanding that Epping Forest District Council is the only shareholder of Qualis. So could I please have an explanation why the departure of the Managing Director of Qualis Commercial has not, to my knowledge, and I've asked around, actually been told to members officially. We even received a Qualis update, which I accept is from the company, that told us everything about what had been going on apart from that departure. And is it really acceptable that members of the council, because we are the shareholders, or the council is as an entity, should find out via everything Epping Forest that the Managing Director of Qualis Commercial has left?
Councillor Matthews, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Murray, for your question. To be honest, I have heard of this, and I've heard of the news in the social media and the stir that it's caused this week. I was somewhat surprised by the emotion behind it. Obviously, I've been aware of this since during the whole process. Our MD left in September. As you know, I've regularly been updating Cabinet on the financial position and what we're trying to achieve at Qualis. I have weekly discussions with the Group MD, and my instruction to them has very much been around making sure Qualis financially works as best as possible. And when we've looked at that, we've looked at restructuring and looked at not having too much of a top-heavy company. We've then, part of that restructuring process has led to a redundancy of that position, and that process was undertaken. From my perspective, it was a manager of the organisation. I would understand the sentiment fully if it was the Group MD, and I would obviously have been at the front of sharing that with everyone, but a manager of one of the companies within Qualis didn't strike me as perhaps as pressing news as others have found and circulated online. So I hope that provides some coverage for Councillor Murray. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Could we have Joseph Parsons, Councillor Joseph Parsons?
Thanks, Chairman. My question's for Councillor Balcombe. With just under 3 weeks to go until the new waste service launches, are we confident that the transition's going to be smooth and everything's on hand at the moment?
Thank you for that question. Actually, we're 28,080 minutes left till we actually start on the road, or 19.5 days, actually. Work is in progress and on track. If you go over to the airfield, you'll see the temporary buildings are now in place, the temporary workshop. All the facilities are there in the temporary state. The vehicles actually start arriving this week. Induction courses also start this Saturday, where we take some of the 2P crews over and they're introduced to the new lorries, the way we're going to work, and issued with all their protective clothing. So at the moment, we're as close as we can be without actually starting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Howard Kaufman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe my question is to Councillor Ken Williamson. It may stray into others' portfolio. And really it's for public record and a direct question regarding the planning services offered by this council, which is a position of great responsibility for the council, for the growth of the council, and also to make sure that we only authorise appropriate planning consents across our district. Now, we had 3 planning committees. They, we were told, became unwieldy, and I'm not against change. We did need some change. We had probably too many members. Maybe 3 committees is too many, I don't know. We've had some issues, some applications that we felt rightly should be turned down, a couple of appeals. We've lost a couple of appeals, it happens. And we've been told by the government apparently we're on the naughty step. And therefore we've gone into emergency measures. We've scrapped the old system and we've now created a new system called Planning Committee A and Planning Committee B. It's so serious that we've had to change the constitution of the council to do this. I sit on the constitution working group. I objected to the proposals. Councillor Pond also objected because the proposals are too radical. For the public, we're now having 2 committees, of which there are 9 members on each committee. The local ward member cannot now vote on planning applications in their district, in their ward. Okay? Now, we were sold this dream on the basis that the 2 committees, each of 9, would have specialist training. They would be the equivalent of the A-team. They would be the best planners we could field as councillors. And now I'm told that there is to be no specialist training for the two groups of 9, which are just 9 that have come from each of the other committees. They're just the normal councillors. Some have got great knowledge. Some, like I've been on that committee for 10 years. I've served before the mast, 10 years. So I've learnt along the journey. Others are less experienced. But these committees are empowered to make decisions worth millions of pounds affect people's lives. And unless they are trained appropriately, I've been sold a pup. I don't like that. They have to have specialist training, otherwise they're not fulfilling their duty. It's a serious matter. I have it in writing. We're now not offering training. Not acceptable. Thank you.
Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Kaufman. First of all, we are not, never were in emergency measures. We were pretty close, but we weren't actually in emergency measures. Yeah, this council has lost appeals. The local ward councillor voting issue, I think we've debated this long and hard, and the Planning Advisory Service were amazed when they saw our working practices. I probably am not incorrect if I say we are unique. The changes were put through this council, they were put through Cabinet, they were put through the full council, they were debated at a special meeting with the Planning Advisory Service available. The majority of members of this council voted for these changes. I'm still of the absolutely firm conviction that the local ward councillor now has a greater voice than they probably did before. As a local ward councillor, if you were stopped in the street before the meeting, you were unable to have any conversation. You could listen, but you couldn't actually voice any of your ideas or theories. Now you can. You can have a full discussion with your residents before the meeting. You can come to the meeting and air the representation for them. I'm not sure where there is a programme of specialist training coming along. Viability assessment is one of them. There's a list of about 3 or 4 of them. The only one I remember is viability assessment, because I've got the RICS booklet. If I'm having a really bad night, I read it in bed. I don't think I've actually ever got to the end of it, to be honest, but it's a really, really difficult document. But there is specialist training coming, absolutely. I don't know whether any of the other members on the planning side want to add anything to that. Thank you.
Councillor Bedford.
Yeah, just to reinforce that, I think it's also fair to say that all councillors that currently sit on planning committees have had training up to date. If you haven't, you shouldn't be sitting on those committees now, in which case you're jeopardising some of the decisions that have been made by the committees that you have already sat on. So just bear that in mind, that you should have been trained. You were asked to attend training earlier this year, and if you've made any decisions at all, then you could have left the council open to further questions by other authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. Councillor Jenny Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. I think my question's for Councillor Holly Whitbread. I would like to know how the museum is doing now that it's a trust. We've just had King Harold Day, and the museum joins in with lots of things, and I believe we've got a Churchill thing on at the moment. But it does a lot of work. I'd just like to know now how it is compared to when we run it now that it's a trust. Thank you.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Lee for that question. And I'm pleased to be able to answer it positively. The museum moved into a trust earlier this year, and actually I would say that it's gone from strength to strength. We all know the reasoning behind doing this, and that's the various financial challenges, but long-term, making sure that we could protect the museum as a standalone trust and charity, appreciating how important the museum is not only to Waltham Abbey as a key part of Sun Street, but also to the wider Epping Forest district. And we've been very lucky with recruitment. We've got a guy called Ian Channell who used to work at the museum and then went to the British Museum and has now come back to join us in Epping Forest, and he is just doing a fantastic job. He's put a fantastic team of people around him to support various projects. And what is really positive is that it's an Epping Forest locally focused museum. I'm the chairman of the trust presently, and one of my criticisms is that it's a local museum and sometimes we were looking a bit too far afield in some of the projects we were doing. So the instruction really has been to get things back on a local level. So on King Harold Day, as you mentioned at the weekend, they had some great events, including some dress-up Anglo, or they were people who dress up for Anglo-Saxons for a living, or in their spare time. But that was really enjoyable, and I got to churn some butter. There's also a brand new exhibition on King Harold's Axe as well. The thing I'm probably most excited about as an avid Winston Churchill fan, who was the MP for Epping, elected 100 years ago, we have got an exhibition upcoming on Winston Churchill, opening later, probably next month, and a series of talks, including one next month. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chris Pond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder whether the Finance Cabinet member could enlighten us, preferably in words of one syllable, what has happened and what will happen to Mr. Google's £90 million.
Thank you, Chairman. And those who had an opportunity to come to the last Cabinet meeting will have seen that the Google money is very helpful at present because it does mean it stabilises our finances. But while we're using the Google money to stabilise our finances, that does mean that we are not investing it in capital expenditure, which in the long term is what we want to do. So in terms of that £90 million, I think it's just less, we will be putting together a plan for investment in the district with that money, and that will be exciting capital programmes in various guises. But at present, it is being used to essentially protect other services. But what I did make very clear in my medium-term financial report is that we don't want to do this long-term. We've got to look to bring in other income. We need to look to make savings. And the Google part, while an important part of balancing the books, is not the be-all and end-all. And ultimately, we want to invest it. And that was a bit longer than one syllable.
Yes. May we have Jamie McIver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two questions, both in relation to local plans. I don't know if two separate portfolio holders wish to take those. The first question is in relation to the local plan and the clean air zone. My question is that Essex County Council, of course, raised several concerns, which is detailed in the local plan, particularly in relation to the possibility of an implementation of a clean air zone, should one be required. It states that it would not be possible or should be avoided at all costs, particularly if it unleashes any inequality. I just wondered what work is being done at present to ensure that should a clean air zone be required, we have a robust defence to stop one, as we now know the impact of ULEZ in London, and anything of similar nature would be disastrous for our local economy. My second question, I'd like to ask about the local plan, is in relation to Ongar. As sites have been coming forward, and we've had several engagement events within Ongar, it has become very clear that some of the sites allocated in the local plan simply do not have safe access. I am totally pro-development, and in places like Ongar require development in order to have a strong high street and various other things. But we would all agree that these are long-term decisions that will have a profound impact on our communities. And therefore, what I think we can do at an early stage, and I know there's a report coming to Cabinet in November, my question is, how can we get around the fact that we have sites in Ongar that do not have safe access? And what are we going to do? Because it's all very well granting planning permission, but if we don't have safe access, how can anyone get to their homes? I feel we're at a good early stage to be practical and proactive to stop that from happening, so I'd like to take some advice from a member of the Cabinet as to how we can do that. Thank you.
I've been nominated for the Clean Air Zone. All I will say is yes to the Clean Air Zone. Basically, it is being monitored.
No to it.
No, it's being monitored. No decision has been made. No report has been generated. We are still awaiting a finding. But yes, there is. It's out there, but we are hopeful that we won't need it. And we are working our way through the findings, which are being put together, I believe, by university graduates and for a specialist company. And when we have further information, we'll come back to you.
Councillor Ken Williamson.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Coming back on the second part, I don't think we'll have any sites anywhere in this district that do not have safe access. There are challenges in some of the Ongar sites, I agree, but they will have to be overcome before planning permission can be given. We are not going to build places that do not have safe access.
Councillor John Whitehouse.
Thanks, Chairman. I think this is a question for Councillor Patel. And she'll be aware that there's various discretionary funds administered either by this council or the county council that are intended to help deal with people in hardship or who need to sort of make up the gap in payments. And I just wondered if she'd made any assessments of how they performed last year and whether any changes were intended this year, given some of the changes in the welfare system, one of which we're discussing later tonight.
In terms of funding, I haven't got a pot of money that I've done anything with in terms of my portfolio.
Which
Councillor, Kaz Rizvi, I think, but he's not here. Yeah, Councillor Rizvi. You want to take
Councillor Holly Whitbread, then to take it.
Thank you, and Councillor Patel is right as she deals with customer services, but that does fall into Councillor Rizvi's portfolio. But I will go back to Councillor Whitehouse with the specific funds and what the impact has been, because I don't have a response in front of me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tim Matthews.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is to the Leader of the Council. We all heard this evening very eloquently from Mr Hanson describing the pond that is on Honey Lane. To couple with that, I also have a river running down Crown Hill and Horseshoe Hill. Both are within my ward. Both I hear about on a daily basis. Both I have the challenges of navigating and trying to drive through on a daily basis. This is an ongoing issue. We've got serious issues with utilities companies doing work, in my opinion, substandardly, not coming back and carrying out sufficient repairs, and the residents of Upshire are frankly sick and tired of it. They've had so much disturbance. They've had the road shut for months on end while waterworks are going on, road shut for months on end while gasworks have been going on, numerous occasions where water has got into the gas pipes and caused failure of their heating systems. It is a constant ongoing battle, and we finally got to a point where we thought the roadworks were done, and then the first bit of cold weather, now we've got a river running back down the road again. So I asked the Leader to please take it back to county, as I know that's where these decisions need to be made, and if things can't be heard there, then potentially we look at escalating it to our MP, because something needs to be done. Thank you.
Councillor Whitbread.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Matthews. And yes, we have talked about this before. There is an ongoing problem with some of our utilities and the amount of works that are done and seem to just be endless, particularly around Waltham Abbey and, of course, Nazing. There's a number of issues as well. I will take that up with the Highways Department at Essex County Council. But again, a lot of the problem is with the statutory services, but that doesn't stop us from actually speaking to them and finding out what's going on and why this is happening just so frequently at the moment. And the damage it's causing to our roads is phenomenal.
Thank you very much, Councillor. No more questions, so we can move on to item 10, which is on our agenda is a report of the Cabinet Corporate Plan 2023 to 27, pages 37 to 53. May I ask the Leader of the Council, Chris Whitbread, to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This corporate plan has made its way through all the various committees, through the scrutiny, through to Cabinet, and now to Council for agreement. Obviously, this is our key strategic plan. This is for the medium-term period between 23 and 27, and it is a live document. It changes as things progress and change. And one of the reasons this is before you this evening, of course, is our transformation plan, which we are building upon at the moment, Fit for the Future. Seems to be that we're always transforming in one way, shape or form, but of course also those growing shared partnerships that we have with Colchester and Braintree. You would have heard about some of the partnerships around technology and the digital space. This is very important to us because there is a number of things we can't do by ourselves anymore, and we of course have to try and make sure that as a council we are working as efficiently as possible and finding ways of curtailing costs so we can provide those frontline services that people really depend upon. Obviously, this has been gone through all the committees so far. Happy to take questions, but the report is before you.
Councillor Stephen Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. I have followed this through various places, which you do read different things at different times. And I read this carefully in preparation for tonight. And there was just something on page 2, a paragraph just above the picture of the plane, the Second World War plane. Sorry that I can't identify what type of plane it is, but it's one of ours. And there was this paragraph that just hit me. Can you give some examples? Because I wasn't aware of this. I'm sorry about my ignorance. The establishment of the Place Fund supports projects that enhance local areas, facilities and community pride. I hadn't heard of the Place Fund, and that's a criticism of me. Could you just tell us a little bit more about this Place Fund and give us an example of a project that is actually enhanced?
Councillor Whitbread, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Murray, and thank you for highlighting the Place Fund, because it is a fund that was actually put in place as part of last year's budget-making process. There's a fund there. It's helped with some of the Highways Rangers projects and some of the funding around that area. We will use it for various things, parking signage, where we've had to step in and do different bits and pieces. And of course, it will be helping us in the future with those types of ongoing funding that we need for small projects that improve the places in which we live. And of course, that's really important to us. I'll be happy to bring a further report back at some point, but I just think in this day and age, if you look at the finger posts that we've repaired, signage that we've improved, that couldn't be done otherwise.
Councillor Janet Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wonder how much we actually mean what we say in this report. In the, the page has moved now, of course. Yes, in our values and behaviours, it says, why are we here? And one of the reasons we're here is to tailor our services to people's individual needs. I have a resident who has been, a council tenant, who's been harassed from the time she moved into her property. She hasn't had satisfactory replies from housing, not timely responses, not adequate responses. She's supposed to be having a move, but she's not getting replies on that. She has particular health needs, which are not being taken into account. She took her complaint to the Ombudsman, and 2 of the recommendations of the Ombudsman was that a fence should be erected at her property and CCTV should be provided. Neither have been done, as we are not tailoring our services to her needs. So if we're going to put these things in as our values, we have to do them.
Councillor Whitbread.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Chairman, obviously I have every sympathy with what that resident must be going through, but I don't know the details. Without knowing the details, this really isn't about getting into individual details tonight. It's about a general strategic policy platform that we have. And yes, I believe this council does do its best to serve the residents of the district as well as possible. You will never please everybody all the time. It's always difficult to do that, but I do believe, and I know the quality of our staff, and I know they do listen. And I think actually Councillor Murray picked up earlier on in the Debden Broadway piece, where I think officers have gone above and beyond to listen to the concerns and individually tailor something to residents and businesses in that area. So I think that's really important. But again, tonight isn't about going into individual cases. I'm sure if Councillor Whitehouse brings that to myself with detail or to the housing portfolio holder, we will pick up on it and take it forward from there.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to make a comment on the corporate plan. I noticed it has a lovely picture of EV charging points on one of the pages, but I don't think it says enough about the council's objectives in reducing its carbon footprint and those of its residents. And I understand that the corporate plan is a developing document and it will change over time, but I would like to see more emphasis on that in the corporate plan.
Thank you. Councillor Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and I appreciate that Councillor Morris does look in detail into these things, and I really appreciate that. And of course, this has been developed during a scrutiny process that has been going on for many months before May, when Councillor Morris was elected. So I fully understand that he wouldn't have seen all the detail that's gone in behind this. And of course, we look at this as our key plan, but there are other policies and plans underneath it. But I'm sure officers will be happy to take on board Councillor Morris's points in the future, and I know what an active party plays in the scrutiny process.
No more questions. Council, may we note this report? Thank you very much. Item 11. Members, we move to item 11 on the agenda, reporting on the Audit and Governance Committee. Annual report for 2023-24, which you will find on page 54 and 58 on your agenda. May I ask Councillor John Whitehouse to present the report?
Thanks for that. Yes, this is the report for the last financial year, and it covers a range of the committee's activities, so I won't go through them all. Perhaps there's three things I'll highlight. First of all, the Audit Committee regularly takes a look at the Council's risk management and risk register, where it continues to set out some significant risks for the Council, but also the actions being taken to mitigate those risks. We've perhaps paid more attention than normal to Treasury management this year because of the impact of the big capital receipt from the sale of land at the airfield. I'm pleased to say the Treasury management strategy coped with that without needing any amendments or changes. And everyone will be familiar with the long delays in getting local government accounts signed off because of issues in the sort of audit industry and the way the government structures these things. I'm pleased to say since this report, the period that this report covers, at the September meeting, we were able to approve the 2001 and 2022 accounts. The 2022-23 accounts are due to be dealt with by a particular procedure the government intends to put in place. And the 2023-2024 accounts were published before the statutory deadline by this council, and that's an impressive piece of work by the finance officers, and we thank them for that. I'm happy to take any questions, otherwise I'd ask members to approve the report. Thank you.
Would you Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. I hadn't intended asking a report question until we had the verbal report. Probably not the right forum to go into the nature of the risks that you looked at on the risk register, but you did say they were serious risks, and I think you said there was 3 of them. Was the Audit and Governance Committee satisfied that those risks were being carefully managed and so forth? Are you happy about the fact that, yes, they do exist, but they are being managed in an acceptable fashion?
Yes, some risks are more within the Council's control than others, but to give an obvious example mentioned today already, there are risks associated with the waste management contract, there are risks associated with the planning delivery, and there are risks associated with climate change, for example, and there are different measures in place to mitigate those risks. Members have different views about how effective they are, but as the Governance Committee, we are confident a process is in place to identify what the key risks are, to monitor how they change, and to make sure that the key members of staff and cabinet are aware of what the key issues are.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. Not a question, just a comment, and thank you to Councillor Whitehouse for that report, and again congratulations on becoming chairman of the committee. I'd just like to put on record my thanks to Councillor Bolton, who chaired the committee for the previous year, for all of his work there. I'd also like to thank the finance officers for their time with the committee and all the work that goes into that. And I think it's just important to note for this meeting what an important function audit and governance plays. It's not always seen as the most glamorous committee, and sometimes we can struggle to get members to join. But I would encourage members to be as engaged as possible. As Councillor Whitehouse highlighted in his report, we discuss really serious issues in terms of risk, but also the financial challenges which this council faces. So it's really important that members are engaged, and also thank you to our independent members who take part as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Members, can we note this report? Thank you very much. We move on to now item 12 on the report, the appointments panel, outstanding nominations for the Planning Committee and outside bodies. The nominations to be agreed are 1. Membership of the 2 new planning committees, as well as the chairman of the Planning Committee B, for which there are 2 nominations for this position, so a vote will be needed. Item 2, the Epping Forest Local Highways panel, there are 5 nominations for 3 places, so a vote will be needed to take for each nomination to determine the 3 places. Item 3 is that the members listed in Appendix 2 of this report be approved for the Epping Forest Local Liaison Group. Members, can the membership of the 2 new planning committees as listed, Appendix 1, to be reported? Councillor Chris Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for taking my report on my behalf. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, first of all, because I think Councillor Calvin made a good point earlier on about members making sure their planning training, as currently is up to date before sitting on these committees, and the importance that they now have. And I agree with him that it's really important that the training is done and up to scratch. So I'm sure officers will check to make sure that any members who go forward onto this committee have done the relevant training before they actually do sit on them. Members, you've got the recommendations for plans A, which I think is quite simple, and we can just agree. Are members happy with plans A? Oh, sorry.
Councillor Murray, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I had heard the same information that Councillor Kaufman had heard. So prior to the meeting, I looked very carefully at what the past recommendations were on training, and I've got them in front of me here. And the Cabinet agreed all the past recommendations, and the past recommendations were behind the setting up of these 2 committees. And it wasn't just a question of councillors ensuring they were being trained. It was a clear steer that the council was going to provide some extra training. And I think it's just worth reminding members what recommendation 6 of the past report was. Implement a programme of training for both officers and members that should in particular include planning and specialist officer training on presenting skills at the planning committee, member training on probity matters relating to planning decision making, and bestow chairing skills. And I have to say, Chairman, before I approve, and I'm only one vote, I understand that, before I approve the membership of these committees tonight, I want an absolute assurance, because I have to say the portfolio hold reply and what the leader has said so far hasn't assured me. Is that recommendation 6 going to be implemented, and are there plans to implement it if it's not implemented already?
Councillor Chris Whitbread.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I may hand over to Councillor Williamson in a moment, but yes, recommendation 6 will be applied. You know, I don't think members even now, I know Councillor Murray does because you attended Cabinet, you attended full council, and I know other members did likewise and took it seriously and understood the need for the changes to be made. We were very close to being beyond the naughty step and losing control of planning. I believe on the evening that we brought this to full council, we were approaching a 12% level. I'm sure Councillor Williamson will correct me if I'm wrong. And we have had substantial cost against this council in the past year. And so, yes, Councillor Murray, I think it's really seriously important that recommendation 6 is applied correctly. And I know Councillor Williamson is very much minded in that way. Councillor Williamson, do you want to add anything to what I've just said?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Murray, for the question. Yeah, there is a programme in place. We've been discussing at our weekly meeting with the planning directors and senior members what's going to be included in that planning, in that training. The one that sticks in my mind is viability assessment training. There were 2 or 3 others which escaped me this evening, but I will send you a list, and Councillor Kaufman, the list of the subjects we are looking into.
Thank you. And I believe that will be ongoing training as well, because the world changes all the time, particularly around planning. Before I actually go forward with Planning Committee A, I forgot there is a change that I need to make for Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Bassett will be taking that place. So I just want to make that clear. So the Conservative nominations will be Morgan, Bassett, Heather, Lyon and Matthews. And it's as set out. Can I take Planning Committee A as agreed? Agreed. Thank you. We then get on to Planning Committee B, where there will be a vote for the role of chairman. We have both Councillor Jones and Councillor Kaufman have put themselves forward.
Excuse me, Councillor. May I ask you, are there any other amendments, new amendments to the Planning Committee? Councillor Morris, please.
Sorry, Councillor Morris.
Hi. I had discussed this with Councillor Williamson, but I believe there is a space on Planning Committee B, and if there is, then I would like to nominate myself for that position.
Councillor Kaufman, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say I'm perfectly happy to defer to be the Vice Chairman on that to avoid the vote if necessary. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Ken Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. On the Councillor Morris proposal, I happily second that motion that he puts himself forward as a member.
Councillor Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. First, thank you, Chair. Sorry, someone's got there. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Kaufman. That's very helpful, and I think it will be a good partnership between Councillor Jones as Chairman and Councillor Kaufman as Vice Chairman. The position of independent councillors is open to all parties, or independent or single-member group parties. We have Councillor MacGyver here. We now have Councillor Morris nominated and seconded. Therefore, there will have to be a vote for the role of the independent councillor on that particular committee.
Councillor Whitehouse, please.
I was going to say I couldn't see a space, but Councillor Whitbread has clarified there's not a space. It's a vote. Yes.
Excuse me. Could we have a show of hands, please, for Councillor Morrissey first? Yep.
This is for Planning Committee B, and you're asking for a show of hands, those of us who prefer a councillor just nominated and those of us who prefer Councillor MacGyver, just so I've got it correct in my mind.
You have. Okay. So, right. Show of hands, please, for Councillor Murray. Morris. Show of hands, please. Morris.
Chairman.
Thank you very much. And a show of hands for Councillor MacIver.
Chairman. Abstentions? 3, Chairman. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that means that Councillor Morris is the independent member on Planning Committee B.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Okay. Councillor Sue Jones will be chair and Councillor Kaufman will be vice chair of Committee B.
Councillor Whitbread wants to speak.
Councillor Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. Moving on from there onto Appendix 2, we've got the Epping Forest Local Highways panel. Councillor Kesker has asked me to withdraw him from that list, so you've got 4 nominations for 3 spaces.
Members, we now need to go to decide on the District Council representation for Epping Forest Local Highways panels for the remainder of the municipal year. The nominations are listed in Appendix 2 of the report. The group leaders, do you have any amendments to your nominations to declare?
We have John Whitehouse wanted to speak. So
Councillor Whitehouse.
This does seem the umpteenth time we've discussed this, and it's now halfway through the year, but I just wanted to make the point. I mean, I think the important thing with the Highways panel is it's generally representative of the different areas in the district, the different parties represented in the district. And at the moment, the Lib Dems are the only substantial group not represented on the Highways panel, because, of course, both the Loughton residents and the Conservatives are represented through a combination of district and county, and indeed town in some cases, representation, if that's still going. So, that's why I think it's important to put forward a Liberal Democrat representative here.
Thank you.
So we need to move to a vote. So we've done the nominations, so we need to move to a vote, and we need to go through all of these one by one. So can all those voting for Councillor Lyon to be a member? Show of hands.
Okay. We now need to go to a vote, and can all of those voting for Councillor Lyon to be a member?
Oh, so one vote. We're going through a number, yeah. We've got a number to go.
What have I got to do? Hold on.
So you need to say that it's one vote per member, and you're going to go through the list of nominations as it appears in Appendix 2, but just with Councillor Whitbread's name,
Just with Councillor Whitbread.
which is taking Councillor Kesgrove.
Right.
Okay.
So
So,
say
it's
that,
one,
yeah.
so members need to have members have got one vote for each for their local highways panels. You're going to go through each nomination.
That's
and
that
they have one vote.
So that's the,
Yeah.
that's right.
You start here.
Right. We need to go to a vote now, and can all of those voting for Councillor Lyon to be a member of the Epping...
Go through each. Yes.
Got 3 votes.
Do you want to
Excuse me.
go to explain?
Right. We're doing this out of sync with all the other outside bodies. The outside bodies are pro-rated, same way as committee seats. So we have gone for 1 vote for each of you tonight to try and get some balance out of, because normally we would do this at annual council time and it would all get wrapped into the spreadsheet and no group would have more representation than their seats on the council, or it would be roughly similar.
Chairman.
Councillor Whitbread. Councillor Whitbread.
I'll defer to Councillor Murray, who's first.
Councillor Murray.
Right, could we have some guidance then? Which group is not getting its fair share of who's underrepresented at the moment in terms of the pro-ratering?
I can't answer that off the top of my head, and I didn't say any group was underrepresented. I said we're trying to ensure that there is political balance with the appointments to the outside bodies. Normally, this would all be done in May, straight after the elections or at the start of the municipal year, and we would have the spreadsheets and we would go across and we would go down and we'd make sure that everything was roughly prorated.
Councillor Whitbread.
Thank you. Chairman, can I apply some common sense to where we are on this evening? Because otherwise I could see us going round in circles for a long time and we've still got a motion to deal with this evening. The situation within this is we've got 4 people putting their names forward. The local highways panel is unlikely to meet other than in the capacity to review the existing programme for the next year. And therefore there will be no votes on that panel until probably next March. Councillor Pond, would you agree with me? Yeah, if not afterwards. A bit short of money on there at the moment. And we've got a full programme of funded works to be carried out, which is what we're reviewing. We were due to meet on Monday this week and it was cancelled. But most of what's going to be completed this year is in Q4. So there's going to be no votes this year. There's going to be no more schemes added to it this year. And, of course, those meetings will probably not happen now for another quarter. I'm happy to go back to the chairman of the panel and say, look, we've got 4 nominations for that role. It's not going to be a voting body again this year. Let's just take the 4 we've got and go from there. And I'm sure the chairman will agree with me. For the sake of a long voting process this evening, that's probably the best way forward.
Right. If everyone would accept that, please. Agree? Thank you very much. Right, we're on Epping Forest Local Liaison Group.
Mr. Chairman, on a point of order, if I may,
Yeah.
I just wanted
What's
to
your
clarify.
point of order?
I have a point of order, yes. Just didn't want to disrupt other votes that were going on. I just wondered if the legal officer or somebody could just explain, so I can explain to my residents what happened with regards to the vote on the planning committee. I just wanted to make sure I understand it. My understanding is that this evening, the Conservative group decided to nominate the Labour councillor instead of myself as he qualified, and there was a vote, and the vote was that I lost the vote. I just wanted to clarify so that I can explain it accurately to my residents. That's just what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Anyone care? I'm afraid we have taken the vote and we have to stick to the agenda. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on a point of order, I'm not querying that at all.
What is the point of order?
My point of order is, can I please have it explained what's just happened with regards to the Constitution so that I understand it correct before we move on to the next item? I understand the vote's been done.
I have to tell you the monitoring officer will afford you a written explanation. Thank you. Members, we now need to decide on the District Council representation for the Epping Forest Local Liaison Group for the remainder of the municipal year. The nominations are listed in Appendix 2 of the report. Group leaders, do you have any amendments to your nominations to declare? No? No. Councillor Pond.
Only in the case of Loughton Forest, I have both Allgood and Owen, and the idea is that because Owen's job, Michael Owen's job is so demanding of time, I didn't want to make him the sole representative, but they should deputise for each other, if that was necessary.
That's fine, thank you very much. Right, where are we now?
No amendments. So, go ahead. Members can read this bit.
Members, can the nominations to the Epping Forest Local Liaison Group as listed at Appendix 2 of the report and amended by the group leaders be agreed, please?
Agreed.
Thank you. Where am I? I've got lost. Members, we have a motion before us tonight. May I ask Councillor Holly Whitbread to present the motion?
Thank you, Chairman, and I'm pleased to put this motion to Council this evening. And this isn't an opportunity for theatrics or political point scoring. The reason we've brought this motion to full Council this evening is to really highlight the concern that many of our residents are feeling in relation to the cut of the winter fuel allowance. And yes, I'm sure some will use the argument that not everyone needs it. But this policy change by the new government has led to a great deal of anxiety for many of our older residents across Epping Forest. Actually, it affects 22,000 people in total. And if we look at the demographic of Epping Forest, yes, there will certainly be the most vulnerable people who are directly affected by this. There will also be the people who are perhaps asset-rich and cash-poor, people who might be sitting in larger homes but really struggle to heat them. And there's also those, and this probably takes up a large proportion of older people in our community, who are just too proud to ask for help. So this winter fuel allowance, which came every year, and yes, a relatively small amount at £300, was a lifeline to many people. And I know from talking to people within the local community, family and friends, people I know, this has led to a level of anxiety and worry in the knowledge that energy bills are likely to increase further, and we're still actually going through a cost of living crisis where the cost of buying food and running the home is more expensive than ever before. And I know I've had conversations with friends and residents where people are worried about things like Christmas, those small things like going out for a meal with family or a coffee with friends. And actually, I think this is a concern as well as for individuals' health, but also for their mental health as well, and being able to kind of go out and socialise. So the point of this motion this evening, and there's no point in going through the party politics of it all, the government have got a huge majority, they've voted this through, and the reality is it's going to happen. But the point of this motion this evening really is to, first of all, flag what support is available to our residents, and we've got a forum this evening to do that. And actually, some people are eligible for pension credit and they may not be aware of this, and this includes the winter fuel allowance. So flagging that is out there, and you can also have a phone call to receive that support. It's also about making sure that we're providing sufficient support. We've had warm hubs downstairs here and across Epping Forest District before, and our partners in the charity sector, such as Citizens Advice, provide that fundamental information to people that they need, and people need to know they're in the building here and also available on the phone. So I don't intend to talk for very long this evening. I have already spoken on various matters, but I do think it's really important that today we mark the concern of our residents across Epping Forest District, the loss of this payment and the impact it will have on many of the most vulnerable people. And actually, to be frank, people who have worked for this money their whole life and get something out of the system that they have paid into. As I say, this is a forum to raise awareness, and I think it's important that we raise awareness that this is causing great concern to local people, and indeed that we make the government, through this public forum, aware of that. And I would also like to put on record my concern about what else could be to come, particularly in terms of that single person's tax discount, which disproportionately affects older people and widows. So this attack on pensioners isn't right, it isn't fair, and it's causing a great deal of anxiety across our community. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bedford, as you seconded the motion, do you want to say anything on the motion, or did you want to reserve your right to speak until after the discussion?
Reserve to go last, thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, are you happy to agree to this motion? We can open the discussion now, please. Anyway. Thank you very much, Councillor Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think we're more used to hearing the Conservatives attacking social security payments and trying to freeze and cut benefits. So it's welcome to see this on the agenda. And there's nothing we disagree with in the motion, so we shall consequently vote for it. I think it's summed up by the paragraph that says that while not every pensioner needs it, some above the cut-off do. It's a very cliff-edged sort of cut-off. It will lead to hardship. There's research by some of my Liberal Democrat colleagues that showed a substantial number of pensioners are thinking they'll need to heat their homes less this winter because of the loss of the winter fuel payment. And I think the absence of a proper impact assessment when it was put through Parliament is really quite telling. There's a resolves section in the motion, again, which we support. I've got colleagues like Councillor Sharif who've been out collecting signatures on the Age UK petition, which is mentioned. I'll also remind people about the question earlier about the household support fund, discretionary support funds and so forth. It's important that where the councils got a role in dishing out that money, that takes account of these changes, and I hope that's been noted. It's also important that it's not just pensioners who face hardship. There are other benefit cuts in recent years which have increased child poverty, affected people with disabilities, and we need to make sure that we're alert to that and put the pressure on government to address those now, given it has not been addressed in past years. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Darshan Sunga.
Thank you, Chairman, and I welcome this motion. In fact, one of the roles I do outside council is I'm a government and political advisor to Property Mark, and I've been to a number of conferences, and I'm not making this political, but at the Labour Party conference that I attended, their own members themselves were against this scrapping of the winter fuel allowance. But what I really want to home on is that there are people living in our district that live independently, live on their own. And the whole idea of removing a very small amount, but for us, but for them it's a lot of money, is causing them a lot of anxiety. They don't know how they're going to cope with it. Are they going to heat or they're going to eat? But with bills going up as well, that's adding to the whole situation. And I would urge all members of the council here tonight to urge the leader of the council to support this campaign and to write to the government asking them of the unintended consequences that they're going to cause to our old age pensioners in our district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Jamie McIver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will wholeheartedly support this motion this evening. I think it is really offensive to our pensioners, both here in Epping Forest, across Essex and across our entire country, that they are to face a winter £300 less payments per annual per person on average. And the reason why I think this is so cruel is for a number of reasons, but I'll list the three that I find most cruel. Firstly, I find this cruel because it literally came out of nowhere. There was going to be this new government that was going to do so many wonderful things. The mean politics was over. We're going to have this amazing new shiny, gorgeous red, bright red flame of positivity. And then within the first 100 days, we see our pensioners hoodwinked into voting for the party, the Labour Party, and then have their winter fuel payment removed. And it's almost like, it happened so quickly and so unnecessarily. It was almost like this evening when I found I was removed from a planning committee, that I actually sympathise with how pensioners must feel. I really do. But I was not one of the people that declared an interest, but I may have to, because I do understand how pensioners feel when you suddenly turn over and think, can these people be even more peculiar than you expect? And the next point I'd like to make is with regards to the politics of envy. This idea that because somebody's got something that you want, which I feel in the case when you've got a Labour government, this idea that because pensioners have got savings in their bank account, that all of a sudden, well, then they can use that to pay for their energy bills. Well, actually, when people work hard all their life and they have an ambition and a vision, they work really hard throughout their life to achieve it. Who is anybody to snatch that from them like that? And I feel that that's what this government believes. They believe that they can just take what people have worked hard for. And the final reason why I think this is totally unfair is because of the contribution that pensioners have made to the fabric of this country. Do I really need to remind people in this chamber of what life would have been like for my grandparents just after the war, the sacrifices that their parents and grandparents had to make for this country, to make it the wonderful, proud, red, white and blue United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland that we adore. Those people who put their lives on the line for this country now find themselves in a government elected by democracy that they fought for. They find themselves having to decide whether to eat or heat their homes. Now, what a sham in the 21st century when in the UK, one of the fastest growing economies in the G7, we have pensioners that have worked all their life, served in our armed forces, deciding between heat or eat. Now, we are lucky because here in Epping Forest we have amazing community groups, Free Food for You being an obvious one to mention, an organisation that takes away the weekly food bills for so many of our pensioners, no questions asked, no snobbery. If you need help, they're there. In Ongar, we have the wonderful, and I mentioned today at County Hall, Amanda and Maxine, who provide free exercise classes for elderly people in Ongar, giving them the opportunity to keep fit and not have to worry about how much that costs. We are blessed in our community to have people that do these things. And so my message to this motion, Mr. Chairman, as I wrap up, is this. Whilst it is very disgraceful what the government has done, what we all have to do as councillors collectively in this chamber is we have to support the organisations out there in our communities that can help our pensioners. The time has come to stop doing we've done motions all day at County Hall about this, and I totally get the reason why. But we now need to leave this chamber not moaning about the government, but working out ways we can support people from the damage that the government is doing. And I'd like to end on this sentiment, Mr. Chairman, sorry, Madam Chairman earlier today where I was. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to end on this sentiment. In our country at the moment, an illegal migrant can come to this country, they get offered a hotel room and a smartphone, whilst our pensioners have their winter fuel payment removed. There is something very wrong about that, and we must not let it continue. Thank you.
Councillor Howard Kaufman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just be relatively brief, some background to this. So Gordon Brown bought the winter fuel allowance in November 1997. He wasn't a man that I admired. I thought he followed a scorched earth policy in his latter days. I don't think the wonderful Sir Mick Jagger in Mustique needs his 300 quid. So I do think there needs to be some sort of grading of how this is dealt with. I don't agree with the knee-jerk that the decision was made, I think, on the 9th of September this year. So straight after the election, major decision, no real debate. Now, apparently it's going to save 1.3 billion this financial year and 1.5 billion next year. We are where we are because we have a Labour government because of the failure of the last government. I'm sorry to say that. We shouldn't be here, but we are. I'm happy to support the motion. I think the wording is not particularly fantastic. I think it makes the point that we shouldn't be knee-jerking with people's lives. We're going to have a budget coming up, which is also going to knee-jerk, and people have no idea what's going to happen. Knee-jerk politics, disaster for this country. No one knows where they are. Most people are grumpy about it. So to bring something in at such short notice that wasn't mentioned is I can't say it's disgraceful. I think it's very poor behaviour. So I'm happy to support the motion. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Stephen Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. I've read the motion very... the first point I want to make is I've been elected 11 times as an independent. 11 times, Madam Chairman, as either a district councillor or a town councillor. So I take my independence really seriously. So I'm not approaching this in a party political way in any shape or form. There aren't many people in the country that have been elected 11 times solely as an independent. I agree entirely with the motion. I read it extremely carefully, 2 or 3 times, and I agree with every word. I agree with most of what has been said today. I think 1 or 2 of the comments were very unfortunate, but there we go. Appealing to emotion like that against other vulnerable people, because that's what people living in hotels are. They're vulnerable, and they didn't need what was said tonight. Really very upset about that, I have to say. Will be very popular, I accept that, amazingly popular, but you don't always say what's popular if it's really tells you something about the character of the person who says that. I'm sorry to say that, but that is how I feel. So I wanted a more balanced approach to this, and I think there are some comments that haven't been made. Councillor Kaufman correctly identified it was a Labour Chancellor that brought in this policy. There has been a firm commitment to the triple lock, which will result in a very large increase in the pension when it comes. That hasn't been mentioned tonight. I think that has to be in the round, and I am supporting the motion, has to have been mentioned. I think we also have to realise that in the last 15 years, the disastrous, massive cut in living standards has actually been within the working population, of which the latest reports suggest 20% are using food banks. So the real cut in living standards in this country has been among the working poor. The pension credit campaign has been massive, and all the figures show that the number of people who are applying for pension credits has been going through the roof now, and so be it. And the final comment I would make, to make this a more balanced debate, whoever won the election in July, and I'm supporting the motion, I'm making that clear, but whoever won the election in July, be it the Conservatives, be it Labour, possibly couldn't have been the Loughton residents. I don't think it really could have been the Liberal Democrats, but they might have been. But the point I'm making is whoever won the election, we all know were facing a really, really difficult economic inheritance. We all knew that. So that's just some things I want to put into the debate in the round, but I will be supporting the motion because it was a decision that I feel didn't need to be made. It was a decision that was made in the wrong way, and it was a decision that was too much of a cut-off point. It could have been tapered in some shape or form. So well done to the two councillors who moved it, but I think it's going up and down every single council in the country, to be fair. So that tells you something about where the motion has come from. But I will be supporting it 100%, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Cherie Rackman.
Thank you, Chair. I feel the same as everyone else about our pensioners. Do you want me to stand up? I think it's a terrible way forward for them, and I just, you know, my problem is that regarding our council writing to the Chancellor, I really don't think it's going to make any difference whatsoever. They're not going to backtrack on what they've done. So I think we're stuck with this for the time being, perhaps until we get a new government in. When that will be, I don't know. I hope it's quite soon. I must add, however, that a lot of the independent councillors are taking a very sensible approach with this. I know that we've got councillors going out there, they're donating to food banks, they're getting others to donate to food banks. My own group here, the Loughton Residents Association, have plans in place to help our pensioners. And I know of at least one other independent councillor who's now been holding workshops to help our pensioners. And I really think it's great that we're doing what we're doing. But I do think as councillors we need to get more involved, and we need to do workshops, we need to help our food banks, and we have to help our older population. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lisa Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say I'm in agreement with what everybody's spoken about this evening. I do run a warm place in Chigwell, as well as a community pantry. And I've found we have people that are coming to us and really struggling. And when I say struggling, they're deciding whether they're going to effectively, as Councillor Darson Sunga said, heat or eat. And they're down to using one old radiator in one room and living in that one room. And these are people that are property rich and cash poor. And I've been going round and I've been speaking to a lot of our elderly residents about going in and looking at applying for pension credits before the cut-off point where they can backdate it in December. And it's something that we really all need to look at. And like my esteemed councillor Jamie McIver said, that we do need to do things when we leave here. It's all very good us standing here and going,
yes, we agree with the motion. It's about what we're going to do as councillors when we go back outside and support our residents. That's what we're here for. That's what we've all been elected for. And we need to stand up for our residents and make sure we're there for them when they need them most. They need us most now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Morrissey.
Thank you, Chairman. Hi. First thing to say, I will be supporting the motion. I think it's going to cause hardship. There's no question about that. And I think we do need to do everything we can to support our residents. I'd also say I agree with everything that's been said so far, except the bit about the people in the hotels. I don't agree with that. But I think this isn't the only instance where this is happening. The whole system we have is based on a set of cut-off points, and we saw that with the carers allowance, where people are losing their allowance for a tiny difference in income. And I think this is something that we should think about, that we should think about changing, and that we should think about pressuring governments to try and change, is to stop this business where means-tested benefits are based on cut-off points, which are pretty arbitrary in many cases, and don't really address the true issue. All they do is cause hardship. So I think, for me, this motion is a good motion, and I will support it.
Councillor Bedford, would you like to comment now?
Thank you, Chairman. My first point being, I think everybody has spoke well this evening around this motion. My second point is just like to correct Holly. It's not 22,000, it's 22,001. as I was due to receive mine in November, of my part of it. I'd just like to say that I think that, however, I do feel very strongly that the government have targeted the wrong group, has been mentioned here many times this evening. And I know as a council we're already doing great things, and we're trying to help people with insulating homes, working in the rural areas, providing grants, etc. And I do feel as well, when I was councillor for Shelley, one of the great ideas that I came up with at the time was actually in coffee shops, when I was seeing elderly people come in, just talk to them, discuss things with them, see how they're getting on. And I found that none of them were claiming the attendance allowance, and none of them knew that they were entitled to claim this attendance allowance. Now, this is it's not a means-tested allowance. Anybody can apply for it. There are two levels. One level is if you need 24-hour care, or if your wife needs to look after you when you get older, and she needs to get up in the night, make sure that you're okay getting up in the night or whatever, taking your tablets. So there's that one allowance, which is about £105 a week, not means-tested. And the second allowance would be for the second person, who perhaps might have a daughter that comes in to look after mum, take her shopping and help her get the groceries once a week. Now, that works out about £35 a week from what I can remember. So when you add these two together and multiply them by 4 weeks, and it's paid about every 4 weeks, it can work out to around £500 to £600 at least that is not means-tested. Yes, I see why the government and what they're trying to achieve. I also note that there are many people, like myself, who probably don't need the money, and there are also many people that I know of that I've spoken to in the last few weeks around this motion who have said to me, actually, I give my allowance to the food bank. Now, that to me was like to come out of the blue and say to me, I don't need it, and I give it to the food bank. To me, that is how the food banks survive. So this money does get circulated amongst the community. So I'm totally in agreement with this motion. We need to draw it to the government's attention, regardless of how many councils have already done this motion and sent it up. This is our council, our motion, and I fully support it.
Thank you very much. Members, are you happy to agree this motion, or shall we take it to a vote? Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we come to item 15 on our agenda, which is the overview and scrutiny. Yep. Oh. Oh, sorry. Item 14. On our overview, item 14 on our agenda is the overview and scrutiny report. May I ask Councillor Roger Baldwin to present this report?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes. So let's keep it sort of fairly short. Yes. So the overview scrutiny committee on 3rd of July. And this is part of our regular meetings, ongoing meetings, and we examined the corporate report and also the work programme, the ongoing work programme. Now, the forthcoming meeting of ONS, I think it's, it's very, very well known, is 2 weeks this evening. It's on the 29th of October, and we know that is a dedicated single issue meeting, and members have been very, very good. They have submitted a wide range of questions to me. They've also been copied into Laura Kerman. She's also keeping a record of those questions. Some of the questions, of course, are on similar themes. So we are collating the questions. Otherwise, there would be probably, we would have to have a sort of night shift, I think, if we were to pose all those questions. But there's still time if people want to submit some more questions. They can do that. Obviously, we want those questions to be pertinent, relevant to our district, rather than general questions which affect the whole of the TfL network. I mean, I know there are issues about that, engineering issues, financial issues that affect the whole network. And I suppose, you cannot consider the stations in Epping Forest district separately from the network as a whole. So I do fully understand that. And that's probably about as much as I've got to say. I think our regular meeting will be rescheduled for the 19th of November. That's from memory, so I think I've got that right. And I think in a week's time, we have a continuation of the Communities Committee, which had to be abandoned last time. So I think that's all I've got to say at the moment. Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Murray.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I know members will find this difficult to believe, but I do only try and speak when I feel I've got something useful to say. And I want to say 3 things on this. I'm really looking forward to the overview and scrutiny meeting with TfL, and I would like to give a public thank you to the many residents that have emailed me with detailed concerns which I've passed on. That's my first point. Secondly, and it only happened yesterday, could I ask you, Councillor Baldwin, and I'm sure other members are aware of this, the car parks, can you add that issue to the meeting, please? A sudden 33% increase in the car parks, literally overnight, and I'm told not very well publicised. I know it's happened in Epping because we all got that email late last night. I know that it's happened in Loughton, so I'm assuming it's happened across the car parks. There's been a 33% increase in the cost of daily parking in the car parks. So if that could be added to for the meeting. The third one is a matter of concern about effective scrutiny for Epping Forest. Members will be aware that the Communities Committee was rescheduled for next week instead of the place meeting. We know why that happened, and that's understandable. But I do have a genuine concern about our ability to scrutinise an item next Tuesday. We're being asked our views about the additional bin. And I've read that report, and I do understand that the officers who probably produced that report have been very involved in the launch of the new company, and we're probably a few minutes nearer now, aren't we, Councillor Bolcombe, than we were at the start of the meeting. But having said that, I really cannot believe that they expect a select panel to make a recommendation on the third bin based on that report on the evaluation in Thaden Boyce. What was the point of having a whole community trial it, and then we get a report that has no qualitative, no quantitative feedback? And I know that this is a view shared by other members that I've spoken to. So I'm giving advance warning now. Whether it's too late to do anything about it, I don't know. But I really do not feel the Communities panel on Tuesday night can effectively evaluate whether we should support the introduction of a new bin across the whole of the district on the basis of that report. I expected very detailed feedback on what the problems were, what the positives were, quantifiable data about its impact on recycling rates and so on. Otherwise, what was the point of carrying out the pilot? So that's an important message for you, Chairman, as ONS, to pass back to the relevant officers before Tuesday. Having said that, as I've said, I do repeat, I do understand that perhaps the officers who were having to prepare that report have other things on their mind, but we can't make a judgment on the basis of what we've been given so far.
Thank you very much. Could we note that report, please? Thank you very much. Can we go on now to item 15, which is a joint arrangements and externals organisations. Are there any members on outside bodies that would like to make a presentation to the Chamber? No? Okay, thank you. Well, as there are no items that the public and press need to be excluded from, I am happy to close this meeting. Thank you. At 8:45.